What's up guys, my name's Spartan, and in today's video I'm going to be going over a pretty commonly misconstrued concept in the tower that I have personally noticed between new players to the game. And that is going to be over-fixating on coins versus cells. So although the commonly known phrase is that econ is king, econ does not exclusively mean coin income. Obviously, coins are what allow you to develop your workshop, to work on your workshop enhancements later on in the game, to fund your lab upgrades, and so forth, different things like that. But there is another currency that is equal to, if not more important than just sheer coins, and that is going to be cells. So let me run a brief little scenario by you guys. This is a pretty common thing that I've seen from newer players, is that they will find a tier where they can farm pretty low waves but get a higher amount of coins. So for example, if I were farming like tier 14 right now, getting 700 waves, and let's just say for the sake of this, I would be getting more coins in a shorter amount of time. But what I would be neglecting is earning cells. And if you don't know what cells are, those are actually the little yellow triangle guys. Cells are super important. They allow you to speed up your lab upgrades, and labs are what take the longest in this game to actually develop and eventually gold box. So what I have personally always done when trying to advise newer players what tier to farm is I've always kind of suggested try to find a tier where you can maximize both your coin income and cell income. And in order to kind of better explain that and help you guys understand what tier you should be farming, I'm actually going to be using a tower resource today that will be found in my Discord server that you guys can feel free to check out if you'd like. So let's hop over to Discord and I'll show you guys exactly how to get to this tower resource. What's up guys? We are in the Discord now. And by the way, we have a Discord server with almost 1,000 members in it. We talk about all things tower related. We have different tower resources available for you guys. I generally will try to talk in the tower the different voice channels for the tower semi-regularly. So if you ever see me in there, feel free to pop in and say hi. But we've got a ton of cool stuff in here. If you'd like to check it out, the link will be down in the description box below. So feel free to join. Don't be a stranger. And anyway, once you join the server, the resource that we're going to be using today is actually going to be in the useful links text channel, which is right here. So we'll click into that, scroll all the way up to the top, and there's this little post I made called General Tower Resources. The resource that we're going to be using today is actually going to be the Cell Rate Calculator. So if we click into that, it's going to give us a lot of different options here for what we can click on. There's expected cells, simulation, return on investment, and elite chances. And what we're going to be doing today is basically looking at the elite chances. So I'll click into that, and for the purposes of this test to see what tier I should be farming, I'm just going to be comparing tier 8 through tier 10, basically to see when the elites spawn, because if you aren't already aware, elite enemies are the enemies that drop these cells. So I'm going to be looking at tier 8 through 10 and try to figure out which tier would be most optimal for me to farm as it currently stands. So scrolling down a little bit to the actual chart, there's a whole bunch of different numbers here. There's single spawn, double spawn, and then the individual tiers. So the tiers 8 through 10 basically display the different waves. So obviously for all of these at wave 1, you have 0% spawn rate for elites, which basically equates to 0% cells. So you can see as you progress throughout the waves, the spawn rate for the elites starts to multiply and eventually get to full 100% on both. So first and foremost, let me just explain the difference between the single spawn rate and the double spawn rate. So once you reach the 100% for the single spawn rate, if you click into your wave info, where you just click where the waves are, you can see the wave info, and it tells you the elite spawn chances. So right now for my vampires, scatters, and rays, I have a 12% spawn chance for those individual enemies. So what the single spawn rate basically means is once that is 100%, that means that all three of these will equal 33% spawn rate. Which basically what that means is each wave, once you hit the 33% spawn chance on each of these three enemies, you basically will have a 100% chance to have at a minimum one elite, which grants you cells. So you can see during this run, I'm currently farming in tier 10 So I will be able to achieve the single spawn rate for elites at wave 3099. You can see that it goes a little bit higher for tier 9 at 3443, and at tier 8 even a little bit more higher, so 3826 waves, and that is just for the single spawn. I would say that generally speaking, for most early game players, trying to find a tier that you can at a bare minimum get to the single spawn rate, which again is that 100%. If you can find a tier where you can achieve that amount of waves plus some, I think that would be a great spot to try to farm, because then you're going to be getting quite a bit of coins as well as a lot of cells. And if we're being honest, you really don't get that many coins if you're kind of farming lower waves, because there's this whole thing called the spawn rate. And if you're not really achieving the max spawn rate, you're not going to be having as many enemies, which therefore means less coins, less cells, etc. So you really want to try to find a tier that you can get ideally to the max 100% single spawn rate for the elite enemies at a bare minimum. And if we scroll down a little bit, you can see the 100% spawn rate. So for tier 8, that's going to be achieved at 8100 waves. At tier 9, it's going to be 7300 waves. And at tier 10, it's going to be 6500 waves. All right, so we're back at the tower. So for the double spawn rate, we'll click back into the wave info. And basically what that is going to mean is that for all 3 of the elite enemies, so vampire, scatters, and rays, it will say 100% for each of those. Once it happens in the wave info and it says 100% for each of those enemies, that means that you reached the double spawn rate. And that is great. That basically means every single wave you are going to have all 3 of these types of enemies spawning. And obviously that is going to net you so many more cells than even just the single spawn rate. If you are very, very early on in the game and you haven't really been able to push very far in your tiers, I would say at a bare minimum, your first goal should be to try to achieve the single spawn rate, even if it's in tier 1. Which, just for reference, you achieve the single spawn rate at tier 1 at wave 8000. And it will take you a while to get there, but the point is that is the initial kind of goal that you should sort of strive for, is trying to get at a bare minimum to the single spawn rate. If we scroll all the way down, the double spawn rate is quite a bit daunting for the initial first tiers. You can see tier 1, you don't achieve a double spawn rate until wave 17,000, which is absolutely bananas. So probably not optimal at that point to try to farm tier 1. If you're able to get 17,000 waves in tier 1, you would more than likely get more value from farming some of these other tiers. So let me just add a few in here to kind of show you guys. Like, what I would find pretty common is people would be really needing to farm tier 1 or 2, but they would be farming tier 7, trying to get around, 1,000 waves or so. But you can see, even in tier 7, at 1,000 waves, you are basically at 16% single spawn chance, which is not great. In tier 7, you don't achieve the single spawn 100% until wave 4200. In tier 6, it's 4700. Tier 5, it's 5200, and etc. It just kind of goes up from there. But you can see tier 6 and 7, once you get a little bit further ahead, will be a lot more easily obtainable for you to get cells quicker during your runs, rather than having to have like 1 or 2 really, really massively long runs. And I'll briefly scroll down here and show you guys the 100% double spawn rate. So for tier 7, that's going to be achieved at 9,000 waves. So a little bit harder still to kind of get to the double spawn rate. Really, it'll be pretty difficult for you, most likely until you get around maybe tier 8 plus, tier 8 or 9 plus. But for the purposes of this video, if you're relatively new, what you should try to strive for is finding a tier where you can achieve at a bare minimum the single spawn rate, the 100% single spawn, which again basically just means that in the wave info, it'll say 33% for each of those respective elite enemies. So long story short, the best thing that you can try to do in this game, in my opinion, in terms of farming, is try to find a tier where you can maximize both your cells and your coins. Because like I mentioned previously, your labs are going to take an absolutely excruciating amount of time to get some of these upgrades done. And the stronger you're able to work on your workshop, the stronger you're able to work on your labs, different things like that, the better your tower will be overall. The better you'll do in tournaments, etc. Every aspect of the game. But my encouragement to you guys, whether it be new players or even more experienced players, is just try not to fixate on any one aspect of the game. So if you're just focused on coins, probably don't really just worry about coins. And likewise, I mean, it does go both ways. I've also seen people that are just concerned about cells, and they may farm a tier or two like lower than they technically could for the sake of getting higher amounts of cells, which there isn't necessarily anything wrong with that. But this game is very, very calculated and detailed and requires quite a bit of balance to make consistent and good progress. So that would be my encouragement to you guys, is just really try to maximize what tier you're farming. And if you're confused about it, do some tests, do some full farming tests. Like right now, I've been in a situation where I've been sort of bouncing back and forth between tier 9 and tier 10. And I've recently found that my tier 10 runs, although being a little bit shorter, perhaps not getting as many cells, I'm still technically actually getting about equal cells to my tier 9 runs because of the elite spawn rate. And you can see I'm actually able to get more coins in about 2,000 less waves. So that is really, really great. That tells me I need to be farming more tier 10. But anyway, guys, that is going to wrap up today's video, but I really hope that it was helpful to you guys. And if you enjoyed the video, maybe consider throwing a like on it, dropping a comment down below, and subscribe and hit the bell notification if you'd like to be notified whenever I post videos. And yeah, I really do appreciate all of you guys for checking out the content, supporting me in my work. And if you'd like to support me financially, you can see there's a couple ways to do so. I have the YouTube memberships, which are basically just like a Patreon. And I also have my in-game ID down in the description below if you feel so inclined to bless me with a stone pack. But anyway, I'm going to leave the video there, but thank you guys so much for watching. And like always, I will see you guys later.